Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again today is Ishmael Johnson. And today, Ish, we are joined by the head coach of Rice women's basketball, Lindsay Edmonds. Coach, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us again on the show.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk hoops with you guys again this year.
Yeah, thanks. I know it's September; it's football season for everybody, but we have a schedule. We got a bunch of coaches on from across the state, so we had you on last year, and it was an awesome interview. And we definitely wanted to have you on again, especially considering the success y'all had last year. 19 and 15 overall, 99 in conference, but then go on to win the AAC tournament, 4 games in 4 days, and then to play LSU and only lose by 10. I mean, on the road, I was there. I mean, I cover LSU full time, and to be there and watch that game, which we'll talk about in a second, but just what was that whole year like for you and just for the team and the program as a whole?
Yeah, I think we started out with really high expectations of what we wanted the non-conference to look like. The season prior, we had went undefeated in non-conference, and we had played some, Power Fives and one at home and one on the road, and so we had these really high expectations of what we wanted the non-conference to look like, and didn't really accomplish what we wanted, like wins and losses, but I remember vividly in December after losing in overtime at Houston, having this like locker room moment with the players like, listen, I know this hasn't went the way we wanted, but I still believe in my heart. Like, we're learning so much from all of these games. Like, these adversities that we're facing right now are going to bring us the March blessings that we know that we all want. And I felt like in that moment, every single person believed that, and every single person was like on the same page with me as that. So then we go into conference, and we're undefeated through January, and early February we're sitting, in first place, and we're like, okay, this is great. And then injuries started happening. And we had players coming out of rotation, and we were like trying to figure out how to play without them. And then they were inserting themselves back into rotation. And then it's like, okay, now we got to learn how to like play with them again. And no coach wants to go through a 5-game skid. So at that point I was like, what happened and what is going on? And like, I don't even recognize this team. We're not even like playing like ourselves. But all that to be said, I hate losing, but I still enjoy coming into work with these young ladies every single day. And they still showed up with a smile on their face, despite them being upset about losing. And so I think we all knew that there was still like a bigger goal in front of us, and something else that we could reach and that we could do, and that was obtainable. And so the confidence never wavered, despite being going on that 5-game losing streak. So we hit conference with an unbelievable amount of confidence that we had one goal in mind, and we were not stopping until we accomplished that goal. And that's what we did. And it was a lot of fun. And it's a moment that I'll remember for the rest of my life. I had won championships before, but never obviously as a head coach. And so that was really special to do it with that group, for sure.
Yeah. Looking back on that conference run, I remember me and Bruni were playing a game. It was basically like, hey, is this team in 3rd or 10th? Basically, because like you looked at the record, and I think literally every team from like 5th to 12th or something had like 5 losses. Yep. And it was such a topsy-turvy. Like, what was it like preparing week in, week out for a conference schedule that was like, okay, if we lose this game, we can all of a sudden we're the 8th seed in the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild. There was like so many different equations, and things kept happening for us in the right way too. It was like, okay, if this person loses and we win this game, then we jump to this position, and then that person would lose, but then we wouldn't do our job and we wouldn't win to like help ourselves. And so it's like, man, there was just so many different moments like that I remember. And then there was such a letdown of like, oh man, we didn't do our job. What we needed to happen, but then we didn't do our job. And then you're right. There was like a 5-way tie for 5th. And we fell to 10th. And it, I know there's rules in place, but like head to head, we had beaten teams that got ranked higher than us. And it's like, but head to head, we beat these teams. And so that was wild a little bit too, because you think the head to head matters the most, and it didn't. But it was definitely wild. It was a wild conference for sure. On any given night, people were losing, people were winning. It was very wild to prepare for.
Yeah. Just a real quick on that. Fourth UTSA at 10-8 for everybody listening at home. Fourth UTSA at 10-8, and then 11th at Rice at 8-10. So 2 games separated, fourth and 10th, and everybody else is 10-8 or 9-9 as you guys were, and just a cluster. It was crazy.
It was a cluster for sure. Absolutely.
I do want to talk about that experience, that LSU game, where y'all just stayed right with them. I mean, halftime, it's a 3-point game. Even the second half, they didn't really pull away at any point. It was always there, and you ended up losing by 10. To play in front of, I mean, 12,000 plus people in that arena against a team against Kim Mulkey and all that. What was that like for you, and what was it like for your team to obviously experience that and go punch for punch with them for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly proud of our performance at LSU. Obviously, I wanted to win the game, but I'm incredibly proud of the way our young ladies went in there with like no fear. And yes, we were playing LSU. Yes, there's a lot of quote unquote like really famous players on their roster, right? And there was going to be a lot of fans that were going to be wearing purple and yellow, but our players were like, you know what? We put our shoes on the same way. We lace them up the same way. The goals are the same height. Like, let's just go in here and do us and be us. And they did. And they never backed down from the moment. They never backed down from who they were playing against. And I'm just incredibly proud. I think a minute and a half, it was a 2-possession game. And obviously we had to start fouling. And so it extended out to the 10. But we missed Dominique during that game, not having that one more shooter to really stretch the floor for us and open up things for Susie even more on the inside. So we definitely missed her. But we were not afraid. The players were in my office like after the game a couple of days, and they were like, man, coach, it was so loud in there. Like we couldn't think, like we could feel the floor vibrating. And that was like the coolest moment ever. And then the next thing you know, like we're scoring and we're shutting up all 12,000 fans. And then that became the coolest moment ever. And so, again, I think now we have a taste of it. We know what it's like. But we were just never afraid of the moment, and we weren't afraid of the opponent. And we went in there and we gave it our best. And I'm just, again, grateful for that opportunity. It was an incredible experience. Next year, I hope that we don't have a 14 beside our name and that we're not playing someone on their home court. Maybe we can get a little bit higher where we can be playing someone on the neutral court. And now we have the experience of the NCAA tournament, but now we're playing on a neutral court.
Mm-hmm. This one's a 2-part question. One about Malia stepping up last year. She was kind of her and Ashley Austin the year before were kind of the 1-2, kind of with a foursome, honestly, for you guys for a while. Her stepping up into that go-to player role, but then also last year you had a couple of sophomores, or maybe 3 sophomores, I would say, that extended a lot of their minutes. Shelby Hayes, Jazzy Owens, you mentioned Dominique as well. What was it like seeing them kind of elevate their game also to when you guys needed, those supporting roles to also elevate and become more go-to players?
Yeah. Malia has been a tremendous asset since the moment she stepped on campus. We stepped on campus at the same time, and she just continuously gets better, not only on the floor, but like the mental aspect of the game, the maturity that she's showing, the want to of being a go-to player, the want to of being a player that I can draw a play up for. And she's like, all right, I got this. So she's grown just so much. I think we need another jump from her this year, right? I mean, she can't do what she did last year, even though that was wonderful. We need more from her this year, especially now not having DJ out there. We need everybody else to step up their game a little bit more to cover up for what we're missing with DJ. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to see Malia, especially because she was one of the ones that we missed in February. She was out some in February. We started losing some games. Then she came back, and it was like we had started playing like different lineups, and we were just kind of off rhythm. But she came back, and she never wavered in figuring out a way to like insert herself back into the starting lineup, insert herself back to being the player that she's capable of being. And so for her to be rewarded with all the accolades that she received in postseason was a lot of fun. And yeah, you're right. Our sophomore class, they came up big for us. Shelby Hayes and Dominique were both starting at the beginning of the year. Shelby Hayes got hurt, unfortunately, in January. That was a season-ending injury for her. But Dominique played tremendous minutes for us, and it was a big part of the successes that we had last year. And Jazzy Owens really came up big for us in February. She started playing really, really well in the month of February, and I feel like that kind of continued for her as well. So without those three elevating their game, we're probably not going on the run that we did. I feel like Emily Klazak was another that was always very solid and very consistent, but her tournament at the American Conference Championship was just phenomenal. And Susie obviously becoming healthy and helping us win in the tournament was big as well. So everybody definitely played a part. I feel like we were a team in March that opponents had to game plan for everyone, not just one or two players. There were so many players that they had to be talking about on the scouting report.
Yeah. Kind of going off of that, y'all were obviously relatively young last year. And I know Ish and I talked about it. We might have talked about it with you in terms of that, building that foundation in terms of those young players. It kind of seemed like, honestly, just making it the way that the run that y'all went on, being even like kind of a step ahead of the schedule that, a lot of people would put on y'all. What is that like? You already mentioned getting a taste of the NCAA tournament now, but with all of the returners y'all have this year, what has it been like this offseason? What has it been like in terms of you seeing them, interact, and then obviously just how it's kind of played out so far?
Yeah, I mean, I love this team. They are a joy to be around. We went on a team retreat to Galveston, and it was a ton of fun. I feel like this is the oldest, and this is the most mature we've been since I've been here. So we've had some really hard conversations. We understand that the pressure is on us, but we're not going to like back down from that pressure. We also understand, and we're talking more and more about net and what that means. And if there's games that we can win, like we need to win them, and not just win them by, 5 or 6. We need to put our foot down. And if we are up by 8 or 10, let's put our foot down and find a way to be up by 15 or 16 at the end of the game, versus being like, okay, we're going to win this. And so we're talking more about net and more about what that means, so that they understand if we do what we're supposed to do and we win the games we're supposed to win, how do we make sure we don't have that 14 beside our number? And if we would have talked about that with last year's team, I'm not sure we were mature enough to be able to handle that type of pressure. But this team, I think, can. And so that's why we're talking about it, and we're implementing it into drills. And so if the goal is to win, if the goal is to get 50 on a shooting drill, we're not settling for just getting 51. If we don't get a certain number above the 50 goal, then we haven't done our job for a net game either. And so we're talking about that more. We're setting higher expectations because I think this is a team that can handle that.
Yeah. Looking at some of the new players you brought in, Victoria Flores from TCU. I remember watching her at Duncanville leading the playoff team, that playoff run, and then her kind of get thrusted into the starting role last year when all those injuries happened for them. What is she bringing? But then also somebody like Anaya Alexis, who I've heard about since honestly 8th grade when she was tearing it up down in the Houston area. What I thought it was one of the more underrated pickups for in general across the state. What are you hoping for both of those players?
Yeah, I'm really excited about all of three, really, of the players that we brought in. Victoria Flores was someone that we recruited out of high school. She chose to go to TCU, wanted to stay closer to home, obviously Power 5, all the things, right? And when she had the year that she had this year, she knew that she wanted to come to Rice, which we had done. That means we had done our job in recruiting. To be able to get that phone call when she goes into the portal and her be like, I want to come to Rice. And so really, really excited about her. I love the energy that she brings. I love the toughness that she brings. I think it's great that she's had Big 12 experience. And so she knows what that looks like. Even if it was when those players got, hurt and she was thrusted into the starting lineup, she still had minutes playing against them. And I just think she's a competitor. I love her ability to shoot the 3 from the point guard spot. So I think she's going to bring something to the team that we haven't had. I love DJ and I love Jazzy, and Jazzy's 3 has gotten much better as well too this summer. But I think Vic adds another layer that we haven't necessarily always had from our point guard spot. So I'm really excited about that. Anaya Alexis, I mean, you see her in the gym and you don't look at her like she's a freshman. Like she's walking in with a physique and a body and size that just most freshmen do not have. And she is a worker. She is a gym rat. She's always in the gym, always wanting to get workouts. And And so I think she can be a really, really big piece of what we do this year. And then Jill Tweehouse from Oklahoma has had an incredible summer. I mean, she shoots the ball so well. She does not have a freshman mentality either. She's won some we were playing 3-on-3 this summer, and she was making game-winning shots as a freshman. That I think is just really, really special too. So really excited about all three of them. I think they all three find their way to put their stamp on this program and make an impact on this season.
You kind of mentioned it, but how does losing and replacing Destiny Jackson, how do you go about that schematically, and just kind of how you run your offense and really run your team?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have been like, "Oh, you only graduated DJ," and I'm like, "Only graduated DJ? Do you guys understand? Like, she was the heart and soul,
Awesome.
and had been my starting point guard for 3 years, and so she knew exactly what I wanted. She set the tone every single day. She was not a loud leader, but she was going to go the hardest, and she was going to win every single sprint, and she was going to set the tone without saying a word, and everybody was going to follow as DJ did. And so no one's going to be DJ, but what I'm talking to everyone about is everyone needs to be their best version of themselves, even that much more. Right. And so if Malia adds 2 more points, and Dom adds 2 more points, and Jazzy adds 2 more points, and Vic adds 2 more points, now we're getting closer to making up what we were missing from DJ. I'm not saying oh, Jazzy, you got to be DJ, or oh, Vic, you got to be DJ. Everybody's got to pick it up a little bit to be able to get to where we were at with DJ. So I don't anticipate changing the offense, changing the defense. I think the players that we have can still facilitate the offense the way that I want it to be facilitated. And I think they can do the defense that we want to do. They're smaller. They're not 5'9", 5'10" like DJ were, but DJ was, but I think they are still very capable of running the show both offensively and defensively for us.
Looking at the non-conference schedule this year, you mentioned how, you guys like to have a high standard. What about, Gonzaga on the schedule, one of the best teams in the country last year? Even your exhibitions against one of the top non D1 teams in the state, and Lubbock Christian. I love that. How did that come together? How satisfied are you with how the non-conference kind of turned out?
Yeah, I think we're definitely challenging ourselves with the non-conference, just like you said, even from our exhibition. I mean, we wanted to go out and get one of the best Division 2 or non-D1s that we could. For our exhibition game, so that we could be challenged in it, because South Dakota State is our opener, and they're a tremendous program. I mean, they've won their championship. They've been NCAA for I don't know how many years. And so we got to get ourselves ready for that opener against South Dakota State. I think we have some really good teams coming here. North Carolina A&T, Terrell does a great job. He and I, we've been friends for a really, really long time. I think he does a really good job with his program. He gets his players to play hard. They get up for the big games. And so I think, that's going to be a good one. Houston comes to us this year. And so I'm excited that we're keeping that rivalry going and keep playing each other. So we're 1-1 there now against them now. So we got to make sure that we take care of home. We
just had Coach Huey on. We just talked to him yesterday. So I should have brought up the rivalry. I should have told him we were having you on today.
Yeah. Yeah, Huey's great. And I'm glad we're continuing that. I think it's good for the city. I think it's good for the game. So I'm glad we're continuing that series. But yeah, going the road to Gonzaga, they graduated a lot. They're going to look very different than what they did last year. I mean, they were phenomenal last year. And I know Lisa, and she does a tremendous job as well. So I know she'll have her new team looking and playing well too, but they're going to be very different. I think last year they had 4 fifth-year kids that were starting, and so they graduated those, and so they'll look a little bit different. We go to Cancun and we play BYU down there, and we play Vermont also in in Cancun. But then we finish up non-conference at Georgia Tech right before Christmas as well. So I think we're getting challenged. There's some winnable games on here. There's some games that are going to be tough for us. There's some, games of opponents that won championships and went to the NCAA tournament last year. So our ability to take care of what we can control is going to be really, really important.
Is there anything from last year, as far as a team goes, that you're like, I want to be significantly better in this specific area, or that you're maybe focusing on a little bit more this off season, whether it's because of the team or whether it's just because of how last year went?
Yeah, I think in February we got away from, again, just who we are and what we are about. And so finding consistency, and that's hard. Basketball season is a long season, right? Like, how do you find that consistency from November all the way through March, and not have those let ups and not have those lulls? Conference tournament, we held our opponents to 53 points. So our defense was really, really good. We were locked in. I'd like to see that be able to be more than just a 4-day span, right? How do we get that to be over the course of a year? And 53 is low. So even if you're getting 55, 56, I mean, that's giving you a really good chance to win games if you can put the ball in the basket, which I think we can do. So I'd like to see consistency. I'd like to continue growing in our defensive game. I feel like we gave up too many paint points and too many second chance points last year. So those are two areas that I'd like to see consistently get better from us. But I'm excited about the year overall. I'm excited about the opportunity to see what this team can do. But consistency is one of the main things we're talking about.
I was gonna say last year y'all held teams to 22% from three. I remember writing that when I did y'all's preview before the LSU game. It was like y'all took away the 3-point line real well. Is there and then you mentioned, obviously getting better at paint points, rebounding. I mean, rebounding though, y'all weren't like bad. Y'all weren't in the bottom half of the country by any means. But
Yeah, no, we weren't. We weren't out rebounding as much as I would have liked us to be. I feel like, again, paint points, second chance points, which often lead to fouling, and so then we were putting our opponents on free throw line a little bit too much. So I think we have lineups that can. We don't just have to have our post players rebounding, and sometimes in some games I feel like our guards were like, oh, the post players have it, but we need to get in there and rebound a little bit better from the guard spot. So but yeah, we defended the three well. We definitely don't want to give up a lot of threes for sure.
Yeah, I misread the stat initially. It was y'all were like 25th in country in percentage of opponents' points from three. So y'all defended it well, or y'all took it away for the most part. That's
right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely something we talk about, but we have to keep people out of the paint too. So it's hard to do both, but if you want to win games, you got to find a way.
Yeah. Lastly for me, did you notice last year any way teams were defending you guys differently? Was it just the step up to, AAC a little bit where I know you played a lot of the same teams in Conference USA, but I noticed that, whether it was just the options you lost from the year before and maybe having those players like Jazzy kind of work her way into becoming a better scorer, was there a way that you noticed teams were defending you guys, or was it just kind of naturally, hey, we need that next class of players to kind of step up to those roles?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some different schemes. I feel like people were focusing in a lot on Malia and Dominique early on and trying to like find ways to take them away. But then it helped when Susie was healthy and she was able to like really occupy some space in the paint, and that opened up a lot of things for other players. Then conference tournament rolled around and Em was shooting the ball so well from the three. People weren't leaving her at all. And we had to find ways to get her looks from the three. So I just think everybody knew that we needed everybody. We weren't a team that was going to have someone score 30 points every night consistently, just one person, and that was going to help us win games. We knew we needed to have a 4-headed monster, 5-headed monster in order to be able to win at the level we needed to win at. But there was definitely some schemes that we saw consistently, mostly Malia, mostly Dominique early on. But then definitely when Susie became available and was playing really well and healthy, you saw a lot of doubling happen, and Susie was doing a tremendous job of passing out, and that freed up Dominique to get threes, Emily to get threes. And that's what the offense is all about. I mean, the defense has to pick their poison. If they want to double Susie, we're going to knock down threes. If they don't double Susie, she's going to score one-on-one. And so it's not rocket science. It's just making the reads that defense gives you.
Yeah. Susie in the year almost 70% from the field. Yeah, she's I think one of the more underrated players, honestly, in terms of in the American going into this year. So
yeah, absolutely. We were just praying for a healthy year for her, that her body feels good. We get her through this year and find ways to rest her, but also keeping her, in good basketball shape. so that she can feel much better. I mean, she missed the whole first half of the season last year. So she was really just kind of coming into her own at the end of February and March. But if we can have that all year long, it could be really, really special.
Yeah. All right, Coach. That's all we had for you today. We appreciate you for joining us again. We're looking forward to it. Obviously, like we talked about, y'all have a lot of returners, a lot of players we know already. So we're looking forward to watching y'all, and best of luck this year.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. I enjoy talking with you guys as always. And let me know when we can chat again.
Yes, we'll do. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Have a great day.